not so much seek to be consoled as to console, to be understood as to understand, to be loved as to love. For it's in giving that we receive, and it's in pardoning that we are pardoned, and it's in dying that we are born to eternal life. Amen. For it's in giving that we receive, and it's in pardoning that we are pardoned, and it's in dying that we are born to eternal life. Amen.
So yes, today is my last day, but it's not really my last day. Some people might be saying, oh no, oh my gosh. But it's my last day as the interim senior minister. That it definitely is. But it is not my last day as a member of this community and as family. Yes, I know, and I love you too. So today I decided, I've been speaking here, and you kind of know what I care about and how I bring the message to us. You know what matters to me. And I thought, I want this day to be something more than that. And I didn't know what, and I just prayed on it and thought about it, and I read something and I went, oh my God, it's really for me. What is most important to me is how do we practice our faith? How do I be a person where all of God is welcome? All perspectives, all viewpoints, all practices. How can I be that place that goes beyond the way I was taught to see it and sing it and say it? How can I be that expansive? That's a really big ask. And yet, isn't that what we're here for? Many of us have different religions of origin. I mean, I was unbaptized, because my parents had both been kicked out of their respective religions. One was Anglican and one was Catholic, because they did a terrible thing by getting divorced. And they were not allowed in their church. And so they refused to baptize us because they were hurt. But the Spirit was so big in me as a little child that I would drive around with my parents going on vacation or going to the store, and I'd see a temple or a cathedral or a church or a mosque. And I remember going down to Nova Scotia once. I think I must have been 6, 7. And all the way along, I would find these religious homes. And I would say to my parents, wait, stop the car, stop. And they'd say, what? And it was either going to be a cow, because I loved cows at that stage, or it was going to be some religion. It was going to be some holy place. And, they would stop the car. So, that kind of says it. If we don't resist that call in us, it will find the river to flow in. It will. And all of us are called, otherwise we'd be playing golf or watching Wimbledon or sleeping in. But we're not. We're called to be here. And today is going to be a little different than usual, and it's probably going to be a little longer. And so if you need to get up and go move around or go somewhere, please do, and then come back. Because we have got an extraordinary program today, an extraordinary experience. It's been so joyful for me for the past 2 weeks to put this surprise together, which maybe you're getting an inkling of. I've traveled and worked in my profession as a consultant and then as a minister in many places around the world. And I studied interfaith. I studied different religions as I was on my way to being a minister, but nothing like being in a community that is so different. So in Crimea, which used to be part of Ukraine, it's largely Orthodox and Muslim. And you can hear the call to prayer every day in any city in Crimea. And I went to Turkey and went to the Blue Mosque, and the call to prayer moves me to tears. Because there's something in me that is beyond that first religion, Protestantism. I went and got myself baptized when I was 14. I said to my parents, I want to be baptized. And they said, why? I said, well, just because I feel, like this is part of my life. And besides that, all the cool kids go to youth church. So we have a movement going here where we're building a youth church for those cool kids. We have a fabulous youth church for young cool kids. And I want you to hold, I heard Carol laugh back there. I want you to hold the vision with us that some of our teenagers hold for themselves. Carolyn's kids. Martine's kids who are teenagers, who say, we want this place. So I joined the Anglican Church because they had a cool youth program. And when I was being confirmed, I drove the minister crazy. Because he'd say, well, just believe because I say so. I would say, that doesn't work for me. He says, you're only 12. I said, that doesn't matter. How does it work? I don't understand. Could I be born in sin? No, I couldn't be. But I got confirmed. And then when it was time to get married, my husband happened to be a Catholic. And he was such a devout Catholic that I needed to become a Catholic too. And to me, it didn't matter. I loved God. It didn't matter whether it was Catholic or Anglican. I became a Catholic. Well, First Communion was a little daunting, I have to say. I was 22, but anyway, I did it because I wanted to have a happy marriage, and so I became a Catholic. And then when I got divorced, the Catholic religion had expanded somewhat. I wasn't really excommunicated, but it wasn't cool. And so I wandered in the desert like Moses for some time, looking for things, looking for meaning. I studied philosophy. I got excited. I had an Uncle Murray who you've heard about, the man who first introduced me to spirituality. And I remember Uncle Murray would say, read the sciences to find the God in all things. And so I delved into those sciences. And then I did a little bit of Eknathaswaran, and I did Buddhism, and I tried different things, and I Sufi danced a lot. That was really great. And I would read scriptures, and I would feel them, but I wasn't called anywhere until my life totally fell apart. And I came to a Centers for Spiritual Living and sat in the back row, and there were 1,200 people in that room and in Santa Rosa. And I sat in the back row, and I did that for 6 months, and I cried, and I cried, and I cried because life was just hard. Unfortunately, I was raised with life is beautiful, so that when life was hard, I had the grit in me to get to the support that I needed. And I found myself in that back row. And what I liked about what I heard in Science of Mind, first I saw the minister. Some of you have met her. Mary Shelton was the minister. She was on stage that morning, and I listened to her, and I went, I want to do that. I want to feel like that. I want to be that poised. Well, I'll never get as poised as she is. But I wanted to be as passionate as she is. I wanted to live my teaching. I wanted to live my faith. And so I started studying and, took all the classes. And as the biggest renegade in my family, becoming a minister was a bit of a shock. I mean, I was always the one that was leading them astray, not bringing them back. But, I survived. So if you have teens that seem to be straying, don't give up on them. Just say, hey, come on back for dinner. Come and eat with us every day. Let us love you. Let us see what it is that calls you. Let us support that. That's what my parents did, blessed be. So that's the context for today. I have an interfaith soul, I think, because it always speaks to me. And every religion is high and holy in my estimation. And what I know is that we have done way too many things since the beginning of time to the others. We have betrayed our spiritual truth in order to justify some immediate gain. And it's not good, and we know it. And what's called for in this day and time is a new way to live our faith, to really live it, to step outside and beyond the boundaries that we learned, to actually feel what is the truth in our hearts and do that. The time has come, the walrus said, to speak of many things. Yes, I hadn't thought of that in a long time. The time has come for us to live in a brand new way, to believe and to treat each other in a way that we've heard for years and years. You've heard that. Do unto others as you would have them do unto you. Well, it's time, because it's too important. If we don't, if we do, it's heaven on earth. If we do, it's the life that we yearn for. If we do, it's the joy in our heart. If we do, it's the possibility of the ages. If we do, if we learn to live awake, aware, and fully alive, if we really do that, so that we notice when we don't hold something safe in our mouth. Did you get the words of Rick's song? I hold your name safe in my mouth. That is so powerful, to hold your name safe in my mouth and to see every person safe in my consciousness. We live in South Salt Lake. There's an organization here called Promise that someone you're going to meet in a minute introduced me to. And they have 3 intentions, or 3 promises maybe. That in this city, everyone who lives here will be on the path to self-reliance. Everyone. The person who stole my purse out of my wallet 2 weeks ago, who I gave water to, I hold that person is on the path to self-reliance. That's the practice of this teaching. Their second promise is that every child speaks at grade level, because when they do that, especially by grade 3, the world is a different place. They're less prone to fail and more prone to succeed. And everything Promise does supports them. And the third promise, or the third intention, really it's up to us, is that everyone who lives, works, and worships in South Salt Lake feels a sense of belonging. That means when we see someone on the street that looks like another, like somebody other than us, we're asked to remember that we belong, that we are one. This is the essence of our teaching, that we are one. And we are asked today, in this day and age, so that the world can work for everybody, so that peace can be our reality, we are asked to see those others as we see ourselves. Now that is not a new invocation, is it? No. Love God with all your heart and soul and strength and mind, and then love your neighbor as yourself. That's what we're asked to do. We're asked to rise up and walk in a new direction. We're asked to get out of that bed, that convenient, comfortable zone of being asleep and thinking somebody else is going to do it for us, and for goodness sake, stand up and walk in the direction of your call. That's what we're asked for. And we've been asked for that for centuries. But the risks and the stakes are bigger. And so is the opportunity. So I am so thrilled to have been here with you for these 8 months. And the most wonderful thing I think I can do is to bring 3 very precious people to share this moment with me. Each of whom, even though I only know one of them a little bit, and I've met one of them once, and I've had an amazing conversation with one of them, I know that we are family. I know that we are part of this human family. I know that we care about each other, and I know that we are friends. And that if they ask me to do anything, I would. And that if I asked them, they would too. I know that. Why? Because each of them has their heart open. Each of them is marching in the direction of their calling, just like all of us. So I want to tell you about our first guest. Remember that, I'm going to throw away the times, I'm sorry. I was going to set that all up, but I didn't. The truth is that we are one. That is the essence of our teaching. The foundation of that teaching is that love shows the way. Love shows the way. And the law, which is mathematically precise, brings it into being. What you think, what you say, what you believe, what you do is what you are, is what creates your life. You cannot escape that. That is just the truth. And when we live like that and we use it consciously, anything is possible. Anything. And when we start to believe that, we look at everything differently. Isn't that true? Yes. So that's our call. And so to do that, we must let go of the things that don't work. What are the things I think and say and do and believe that don't serve this possibility of living life fully? I have to stop that. I have to forgive myself and others. I have to start again, and I have to embrace all the goodness that there is. I have to embrace the love and the kindness and the tolerance and the service and the devotion, and I have to embrace the others. I have to embrace everyone. Now, I fail every day. Truly, I do. I am no saint. And I probably never will be. But I'm a lot happier trying to figure this out than I was trying to be in control of it all. Uh-huh. Yes, you got it. Well, good for you. That's really great. That's really great. So, the golden rule, and there's some flyers out on the table, because I remember once, before I even knew about the Interfaith movement, I saw this big poster, and it said, when there's peace among the world's religions, there'll be peace among the world. And I believe that. Thank you. Yes. The time to compete and go, mine is better, yours isn't, that time is done. The time to celebrate our individual ways of believing, that's the time for today. So I want to invite all three of our guests to come up and sit up here so you can look upon them and feel their energy this morning. And one by one, yes, Imaam, join us, please. There's 3 chairs up here. One by one, you will hear their story of what we care about too, so that we can hear it in a new way. Thank you. Susan Soliel is an environmentalist. She's an environmental leader. She's probably an activist too. And she's the executive director now of the Golden Rule Project. Before that, she was very active and is still on the board of the Utah Interfaith Power and Light. Now, you know, I just learned that it used to really, your PG&E, our PG&E in California, your utility was called Utah Power and Light. I go, God is using everything, my God, even our utilities to wake us up. And so here she is, and she's on the board, and she is now the leader of something that I think is so important.
Good morning. I'm so happy to be here with you. So I am the executive director of the Golden Rule Project. It is not just faith-based. It actually, we say on our website, it is not, we are not religious at all, in part because we don't want people to think that the only thing that we are promoting is one of the many variations or formulations of the Golden Rule Project. It was started by Bonnie Phillips. She actually is the owner, the co-owner of Phillips Gallery downtown. And when she was in 4th grade, her teacher, in addition to having them say the Pledge of Allegiance, at the end they also said the Golden Rule. And there were 2 students in her class who were not from this country. And so she knew in her heart that the Pledge of Allegiance meant nothing to them, but that the Golden Rule did. Because the Golden Rule is everywhere, and it is always. It is ancient, it is modern, it is in every culture, it is in every faith. It is truly always and everywhere. And as she was talking about, when I was talking with Reverend Barbara about today, she said, you know, how do we all get along? How can we communicate better? And really it is living the Golden Rule. And I thought there are probably 400 variations of the Golden Rule on our website, goldenruleproject.org. Feel free to check it out. And I decided that the wisdom of the ages and of all of the prophets and saints and sages would be more powerful than anything I could say. So I'm going to share with you just a handful of them, and I'll pause at the end. And after, we have some posters at the back that you're welcome to take, 1 per family or couple, and if I run out, I'll bring more the next time. And we also have some cards for young people to take in color. And we'd love to be in schools. So if you have a school that you would like us to come to, come by and talk with me after. So I'm now going to proceed with all of this wonderful words of wisdom. Many of these first ones come from Native American cultures or from the indigenous people. Respect for all life is the foundation. Whatever befalls the earth befalls the sons of the earth. Man did not weave the web of life. He is merely a strand in it. Whatever he does to the web, he does to himself. Be tolerant of those who are lost on their path. Ignorance, conceit, anger, jealousy, and greed stem from a lost soul. Pray that they will find guidance. Be true to yourself first. You cannot nurture and help others if you cannot nurture and help yourself first. All things are our relatives. Whatever we do to everything, we do to ourselves. All is really one. And the last one, do not wrong or hate your neighbor, for it is not he who you wrong, but yourself. And that's just from the indigenous people. And then I have some from different faiths, and then a few secular folks, and then I'll wrap up. This is Hinduism. Wound not others. Do no one injury by thought or deed. Utter no word of pain, or utter no word to pain thy fellow creatures. Islam. Not one of you truly believes until you wish for others that which you wish for yourself. Jainism. In happiness and suffering, in joy and grief, we should regard all creatures as we regard our own self. Judaism. What is hateful to you, do not do to your neighbor. That is the whole Torah. All the rest is commentary. Yeah, I like that one. Shintoism. Be charitable to all things. Love is the representative of God. Do not create enmity with anyone, as God is within everyone. Sikhism. And there's one more from the Sikh community. No one is my enemy, none a stranger, and everyone is my friend. I work on that one. I don't have that one down yet. Sufism. The basis of Sufism is consideration of the hearts and feelings of others. If you haven't the will to gladden someone's heart, then at least beware lest you hurt someone's heart. For on our own path, no sin exists but this. Taoism. Regard your neighbor's gain as your gain, and your neighbor's loss as your own loss. And I had to do one more Taoism because I really like this one. Recompense injury with kindness. 4 simple words, so hard to do. Buddhism. One should seek for others the happiness one desires for oneself. This is an ancient Rome saying that I really like. Treat your inferiors as you would be treated by your superiors. Ralph Waldo Emerson wrote, every man takes care that his neighbor does not cheat him, but the day comes when he begins to care that he does not cheat his neighbor. Then all goes well. I really like this one for our time by Joseph Parker. The golden rule would reconcile capital and labor, all political contention and uproar, all selfishness and greed. 2 more things. J.C. Penney opened a store in 1902 in Wyoming called the Golden Rule Store. Did you know this? Anybody? And the Golden Rule was the mission of that store. He believed that in low prices and giving loving service to his customers, that everyone would gain. He also believed, quote, between secular and sacred, no arbitrary line exists. The Golden Rule was meant for business as much as for our human relationships. And then I will end with Mother Teresa. She said, she said many things, but these are my 3 favorite. Kind words can be short and easy to speak, but their echoes are truly endless. We cannot all do great things, but we can do small things with great love. And the last, do not wait for leaders, do it alone, person to person. And that is what I think we need to do. We can't wait for leaders. Our leaders are fighting. We need to do it alone, person to person, truly treating one another with love, compassion, peace, acceptance, forgiveness, everything that we've been taught, everything that the Golden Rule espouses, everything that all of the faiths have in common. Really, as we allow these wise words to seek into our hearts, then we will transform our world. Thank you.
Welcome to our community, Imaam Muhammad.
Sincerely, thank you very much for the invite. Actually, I think I'm more depressed today than any other day, and let me tell you why. I've never seen so much positivity for such a long period of time. In fact, in being connection with the media constantly, I just hope I can leave this place alive today. But suffice to say, it is very good to not only be part of this event, but in particular, the topic was amazing. In the beginning, I was told, and when I came forward here, intellectual communication. You know, in today's time, we should be asking ourselves, what is that? Especially in the context of what is going on. And let me just share with you very briefly what happened yesterday around, I'd say, 9 a.m. I think there are some people out there, their job is to make your day a misery. I think that's what some people are just created for. So this fellow called me, and he said, this is part of the media, wonderful. And thereafter he says, well, why do you all hate women so much? He just went right into the conversation. Why do you Muslim people hate women so much? And I said, can you show me that proof from the Quran? Well, I know that's what the Quran teaches you, and that's what it has to be. Can you give me, sir, can you tell me from the Quran exactly where it says women are second-class citizens? No, I don't have the proof, but I know that's what it is. Okay, number one. Number two, why do you people want all gay people killed? Okay, that's what you're saying, I understand. Can you give me proof from the Quran itself that we want all gay people killed? No, there is no such proof in the Quran. And this goes on and on and on. And I realized something very, very important. This individual is taking his data from people out there that do not understand the religion whatsoever. You know, in today's time, it's very easy to become, what can I say, a guru in your field. It's very, very easy. All you got to do is go take a few classes, wear a nice suit, wear a nice tie, and have the media give you an interview. And all of a sudden, you are an expert regarding women. You are an expert regarding, children, for example, and pass whatever rules and regulations you wish to pass regarding them. You are an expert regarding the environment. You are an expert to the point where you can even become a president of the United States because you have certain amount of resources. And by the way, if our president is doing a wonderful job, congratulations. And wherever he is not doing a wonderful job, I learned something very important from our previous guest. What did she say? We have to now become active ourselves. And the question is, how do we become active ourselves? And this is a very important thing. You know, in the Quran there's a story. Now this is the fact. I'm giving you from the Quran itself. Abraham, peace be upon him, one day got up in the morning, and he saw the beautiful sun, and he said, wow, look at how radiant the sun is. It is because of the sun we are able to have, for example, plants that can photosynthesize. And through its process, later we get fruit. We get food from it, and we are able to survive. The sun has to be God. Thereafter, he sees the sun going away, and he says, wow, God never goes away. And then he saw the night, and he says, beautiful. And then he saw the stars, and he says, no, that has to be my God. And thereafter, he saw something even more brilliant coming thereafter, and he saw the moonlight, and he says, that has to be God. And he began to think, and he said to himself, the sun comes, the sun goes. The moon comes, the moon goes. The stars come, the stars go. And there has to be something behind all this. And he says, there has to be a supreme power. And that is the supreme power I'm going to follow. And thereafter, he submitted himself by saying, God, I give myself to you, the God who is most just, the God that is most powerful, the God that is most kind, the God that is most compassionate, the God that helps me when I'm sick, and when I'm sick, he gives me health, that God that feeds me when I'm hungry. I have to now worship that one God. And you know what you and I have done, unfortunately? We started labeling God. Some call God this, some call God that. Some begin to ask questions like, is God male or is God female? Islam says, let me tell you what God is. And all religions have this similarity. God is that wonderful entity that wishes bad, that wishes good for ourselves while we continue to wish bad for one another. And this is something that we have to rectify. Because I learned something here today very, very important. We have to wish one another good, because when we wish one another good, God begins to say, you know what? I'm the most compassionate, God says. I'm the most merciful. I'm the most loving. I'm the most kind. And when you do good to one another, God begins to say, if you are so good to one another, I have to shower you with greater levels of good. So this way, you can be most successful, not only in this world, but in the hereafter. I will end up on how we can become the best. You know, on the day of judgment, and judgment is something we all will be called upon to be part of, whether we are Muslim or other faith. And God, according to the Islamic faith, will give us our positive outcome based on our positive deeds. And even though I'm a Muslim, if I've done wrong, God will say, I'm sorry that today you have to be punished for the wrong you have done in this world. So I have to ask myself, not my position, how good I am. Because in public, I can fake it. I can talk good. I can talk wonderful. But when the door closes, what are the thoughts? You know, there's something beautiful I learned in your music here today, in the song, that my thoughts will result in my actions, and my actions will show who I am. So God in the day of judgment will say, you didn't visit me. And we'll say, but God, how could I visit you? You are God. You didn't clothe me. God, but you are God. How can I clothe you? God will say, you didn't feed me. How could I feed you? You are God. And God will say, so and so was poor. Did you go and visit them? Did you take a little bit of food for them? Doesn't matter if you got it on sale or not, but did you feed them? That's the bottom line. God will ask, did you give so and so clothes? Did you know so and so was a destitute? Did you know so and so was sick and in hospital? Why didn't you go and visit them? When you visit the sick, when you feed the poor, when you help the needy, in reality, what are we doing? We are giving towards God. God doesn't need us. We need God. And where do you find God? You find God with the weak. You find God with the poor. You find God with the sick. And let me tell you in conclusion, and I mean this very, very sincerely, although it may be humorous to a certain extent to some of you. Whenever you give a wealthy person anything, whether it is food or clothing, you know what they're going to say? I could have got it better elsewhere. That's how they are. That's human nature. Because nobody likes to say thank you. And when you help that poor person, when that person says thank you, he says it or she says it from the heart. And when they say it from the heart, there is sincerity. And you know, sometimes you have this wonderful vision where you can visualize heaven, but you don't say it to anybody because they'll say you're cuckoo. So, you know, you can visualize heaven, you visualize paradise. Where are you getting that vision from? You're getting it from somewhere down here. Coming back to the point, when that poor person says thank you, when that sincere person that you have visited in the hospital says thank you, and you begin to feel good, that connection that is taking place between you and them is not just between you and them, it is between them and God. And when God is saying, now I appreciate your kind gesture, you and I can become the best of the best. God bless. Thank you all for inviting. You are a wonderful group, and God bless you at all times.
This man is a model for me, and I'm very grateful to have him here. Shaun Marchant.
Well, the pleasure is mine to be here. I'm grateful for the invitation. I'm grateful for the love and the spirit that's here. I'm grateful for the friendship that I've been able to build recently with Barbara, and I look forward to getting to know more of you and calling you my friends as well. She mentioned that we met because of the Interfaith partnership that we have been creating over this last year. She mentioned the 3 goals: that all residents of South Salt Lake feel that they belong. My belief is that the similarities that we have amongst each other, of various faiths or no faiths at all, are much greater than any of the differences that we may have. And that the differences we have do not need to divide us. Number 2 is that every resident has a path to self-reliance. Now that can mean something different for everyone. But to me, that means both temporal and spiritual self-reliance. I run into people every day who have difficulty focusing on the spiritual aspect of their lives because temporally they're struggling. I've come to learn that if you don't have food in your stomach, if you don't have a roof over your head, it can be very difficult to focus on the higher things in life, the spiritual things of life. And so that is something that we focus on. And then number 3 is that every child reads on grade level. There have been many studies that have shown that 50% of people who are not reading, when a child is not on reading level by the 4th grade, 50% of those children end up as adults either being on welfare or end up in jail. In fact, in the United States, there's one similar thread that many states use into knowing how much they need to remodel and build upon their prisons. There's just one. Do you know what that is? It's how many children are not on reading level by the 4th grade. And that is something that we can do where there is statistical evidence. We can see if we really are making a difference. It's something that we can do together as a community to help our children and to help our community. Now, one of the things that I love reading and learning about, I have a passion for learning about our country and its founders. I don't know if any of you are that way as well, but one of the greatest talks I've ever read used to be required reading in schools for 100 years. That was George Washington's farewell address. No one really knows about that anymore, but for those of you who have read it will remember that there are two pillars that George Washington said were critical pillars for political prosperity. And he didn't mean political parties. What he meant was, for our country to be successful, there are 2 critical pillars. One is religion, and the other is morality. Now, he didn't say a specific religion. He just said, the way I interpret that is that we have a duty to God, and we have a duty to each other. And I also interpret it to be this, that the way we love and serve each other shows how much we love God, whatever that may be for each of us. I also believe that when we forget that there is something bigger than ourselves, we also tend to forget the duty that we have towards taking care of each other. Now, in our church, we have something called the Articles of Faith, and it's the basic tenets of our beliefs. There are 13 of them. I just like to read the 13th. It says, "We believe in being honest, true, chaste, benevolent, virtuous, and in doing good to all men. Indeed, we may say that we follow the admonition of Paul. We believe all things, we hope all things. We have endured many things and hope to be able to endure all things. If there is anything virtuous, lovely, or of good report, or praiseworthy, we seek after these things." I know that there is truth and goodness to be found in all religions, in all faiths, and in many groups and organizations, and we can all benefit from each of them. And that is what we are looking for. Now, over the last 10 or 15 years, I have found a lot of that in many of the refugees that have come into the city of South Salt Lake. Hundreds and thousands have come into the valley, and they have blessed my life. We work with many of them. In fact, my children go to the local elementary school called Woodrow Wilson. I don't know if any of your children go there. In that school alone, there are 45 languages spoken in that elementary school. And I grew up in the Holiday area, the Mill Creek Holiday area, and it was a bit of a monoculture up there. I am grateful that my children have the opportunity to get to know people from all over the world. It's such an amazing thing. Barbara mentioned that, she mentioned the Tibetan group. When I first met the Tibetans, we ended up, long story short, we ended up helping them build their community center, which isn't too far down the street. We helped them remodel the building and do the landscaping and a bunch of other things. And I remember for the first couple of months as a stake, as we went to help them build that center, I would tell my wife, Angie, I'm going over to help the Tibetans. But it's interesting what happened over time. After a period of a couple of months, I didn't even think about them as Tibetans anymore. I just thought of them as my friends. And I just told Angie, I'm going over to the center. And she knew exactly what I was talking about. Now, Lobsang, well, Pema, was the first refugee from Tibet here to Utah. And she told me she wanted to introduce me to the president, whose name was Lobsang. She took me to a local restaurant, and Lobsang walks in, and I knew I had seen him somewhere before, but I didn't know from where. So we sat down, and finally I asked him, "Where do you live?" And he said, well, I live on the corner of 3rd East and Burton Avenue. And I was so embarrassed. Do you know where I lived? 386 East Burton Avenue. We had lived about 8 houses away from each other for 15 years and had never met because I had never taken the time to go outside of whatever my circle or my box was to go and say hi. In fact, the city parade starts at our church and ends down at what's called Fitz Park. It goes right by his house. We've sat on his property to watch this parade for 15 years and never met him. And it was through helping them with their community center where we have become the best of friends. And what a wonderful thing that has been. Because sometimes, say this, I'm part of an organization where we help provide clean rainwater for poor villages in Ethiopia, for example. Sometimes we become part of these great groups and organizations that help people that we'll never meet. But you know what? I have come to learn that what might even be more important is the way we treat and help people that are sitting right next to us, or they're our own brothers or sisters or children or parents. So my oldest son, Aaron, he's 13. He entered the 7th grade this last year. Most of his friends went to another junior high school. He went up to another one. I won't mention which one it is. It's a good school. Well, it's Wasatch. It's a good school. But most of his friends didn't go there. Now, for me, I don't know how it was for you, but the 7th grade was the most difficult year of school of my life. It was the most awkward. At that time of life, what your peers think about you is too important. In fact, I've come to learn that the sooner that we can, the sooner that what God thinks about us is more important than what other people think about us is the moment we become liberated and we become happy. Well, at that age, what's the most important is if you have friends, right? Well, he showed up at school, and he didn't know anyone. He came home, and I asked him, how was school? Because he didn't look quite right. I said, how were your classes? He said, I loved them. I liked all of my classes. I said, well, how was school? And he said, I hated it. He said, I don't want to go back. And I couldn't figure it out, and so I asked him, he wouldn't tell me at first, so I asked him what was wrong, what happened? And then he just started to describe to me what school was like in between classes and then at lunch. He didn't know anyone. He sat at lunch in the cafeteria by himself, and there was one boy that he did know from the neighborhood who was in 8th grade. When he saw him, he said, do you want to come and sit by me? And this young man, and here's the thing, when we care too much about what other people think about us, we tend to do things we wouldn't normally do. Because this is a good boy. I know this boy. His remark was, I can't sit by you. He said, I can't risk being seen with a sevi. And I learned for the first time what a sevi means. He couldn't risk his popularity being seen sitting with a 7th grader. I don't think this boy had any idea how that in fact impacted my son's life. Now, I feel badly for any kid, but when it's your own child, it means even more, doesn't it? And my heart just broke as my son told me he went into the bathroom and spent the rest of lunch crying in the bathroom. Now, over time, he gained some friends, and he's doing fine. But like I said, I think sometimes we forget that there's somebody sitting right next to us or a neighbor next door who's really struggling that might need us to reach out and say hello and love them. We, as a family, every year we come up with a theme that we focus on. Last year was kindness. And we probably should keep that forever because we're still learning that. But this year, my wife at the beginning of the year gave a little lesson. And it was about 1 line long. She said, all the problems and challenges we have as a family, 99% of them, I think, can be resolved if we remember to be selfless. And so she said the answer is selflessness. And so as a family this year, that is our theme. And everything we do, we emphasize being selfless and loving. I am so grateful again for the opportunity to be here. Look forward to, again, getting to know you and working with you. There's so much to be done. There's so many wonderful opportunities. There's so many wonderful people out there. Sometimes you mentioned the negativity that happens in the news. You know, one of the things I've learned is by reaching out to people of other faiths and other groups in our community, there is so much good. I had no idea. And we tend sometimes to emphasize the negative. But I have to tell you, I'll testify to you, there is so much good, and there are so many good people who are selfless and kind, and I hope that we continue to build and to grow on that. So thank you.
And so I'd like to invite all the practitioners who would like to join me to anchor this wonderful experience today by knowing the truth that no matter what the condition seems to be, there is a power and there is a presence within everyone and everything, and that power and presence is the same whether we're here or in Ukraine or in Tibet or in South America or Russia or Finland or in your own kitchen or on the street, anywhere. There is one power and one presence, and that is common to all people. No matter what name we give it, let that name be safe in our mouth. God. Yahweh. Master. Allah. Buddha. The one thing, the one way, the one life, the one love, the one. And every speck of every one of us is filled with it, no matter what we call it. This great spirit is alive. It is a living, breathing, pulsing, compelling reality. And as Imaam said, the moment that we desire to know that is true for another, we demonstrate and prove our faith. And so I know that today is a celebration of a new way of being, a new way of living. And if there's anything that is in our heart that has a fear or a resistance, please take it to one of our practitioners today. Go to the prayer room and let your prayer come to you to remember that we are born on purpose to love, to serve, but most of all, to remember that we are the presence of the living God. It is only through us that this magnificence can be revealed, can be enacted, can be brought into form. It is our hands, our eyes, our ears, our feet. And we are born for this heaven on earth. And so I consciously know that every one of us is called to release all that is no longer necessary and to embrace all the good that life has for us, and our personal power, purpose, passion, possibility to serve each other, to see in each other that which we really are in ourselves, that we stretch beyond the way it was into a brand new day. This is a holy day, a holy moment, as everyone is, and let us remember this. We are born for this, and we are born from it, and it is ours if we take it and let ourselves be an instrument of peace and love and truth and serve. And so I am so grateful to have served here for this short time that has awakened in me something I don't even have words for yet. But it will come. I trust it. I let it be so. I lean into it. I rely on it. And I give myself to it as I say, use me. Blessed be. And I see this light and this power in every person on this planet. I know it is so. And I practice knowing it is so. And so I let it be. And together we say, and so it is.